Right. It is March, and I haven't done one of these in a while. Oh God. Oh God. I have a wedgie, and I can't. It's all okay. This is how I'm starting my review. Anyway, so yesterday I went and saw a special screening. I guess an early access screening of Scream 6, because the movie comes out technically today when this video comes out. But anyway, so saw that, and obviously I'll go into spoilers over there. But I have to say, like, so I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this one a little bit more than the last one. The last one wasn't bad. And then you look at my review and I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm kidding. It's like, obviously, the first one I was cool with, like, why am I going down the tier list of Scream movies? Anyway, so, like I said, I enjoyed this one. Not spoilers yet, as you can see in the trailer, they're in New York City and all that stuff, and, like, like, the survivors, they're all in New York City, and Ghostface is there, and all this shit, and then they just gotta survive, right? So, this movie, you're just watching them, surviving. Apparently, this movie also was, like, leaked at some point, because, I remember seeing, like, I never saw any of the leaks, which I don't know how I just missed that. But I know a lot of people were like, don't spoil it, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm not the kind of asshole that would spoil it. Again, I always say spoiler alert in my reviews before I go into it, so the only time when I just completely spoil a movie is if I don't like it and I just talk about the whole ass thing straight off the bat. But again, you kind of know going in. Anyway, whatever. So, I'm gonna go into spoilers. So, 1, 2, 3 spoilers. Anyway, so, Jenna Ortega's character, she is now a college student, so she's going to college. Well, I mean, all those other kids, they're also in college because they're at that age, so they're in college. The two, like, siblings that survived, they're also in college. The sister is there, so, she's got to follow her and make sure her little sis is okay, yada hoo ha, that kind of stuff. And the movie starts out, and Samara Weaving is there, and I'm just kind of like, and initially I was like, oh, okay, but then I was like, wait, it's an opening scene to a Scream movie. Someone's gonna die, and, she's, a well-known actress, she's a pretty blonde, she ain't gonna die. The person next to me was, like, yelling at their buddy they were with, and they kept being like, it's Margot Robbie, and then I'm thinking to myself, no, it's the other, white Australian blonde woman, who looks exactly like that. I understand I mean, I didn't say anything to them, because Samara Weaving's eyes are a little bit bigger and rounder, and she's got a little bit more of the kind of teeth. It was funny, I guess at one point when they were going back and forth, they just turned to me and said, is that Margot Robbie? And I'm like, nachos deep. And I was like, it's Samara Weaving. It's like, damn it. And I'm like, yeah. Did you not watch, Ready or Not? Did you not watch Ready or Not? Remember when she with the shit? Anyway, so it starts off with that, pretty woman on a date. We're in New York City. I always love watching movies that take place in New York City that obviously weren't shot in New York City while I'm in New York City watching the movie, because, as always, we're going to be a little extra critical about it, and then everyone in the theater is going to just be like, oh, that's where you think it is? Like, we're just, anyway. So, Margot Robbie, it was Margot Robbie! Samara Weaving is on the phone, and it's some guy, who's like, I'm going on a date, and I can't find the restaurant. Apparently it's on Hudson Street. Huh? And then he's like, the dude's like, what color is the outside of the restaurant? And she's like, oh, let me go outside and see. I think it's red. Bitch, the person behind me goes, bitch, you ain't got Google Maps? You ain't got Google Maps? Oh, God, I miss going to the movies in Manhattan. I miss that. I miss it because none of us give a fuck about shit. Especially when it's a horror movie. We're just like, no, we're gonna let you know. Anyway, so he said that, like, all of us are just like, no, fuck you. And because it's a screening, it's like, I love how it's very obvious it's diehard fans with their buddy who doesn't know much about the franchise, because it's like I took Paul with me, of course, and I'm just like explain, like just give him like a quick TLDR about the fucking thing. One of my other buddies, that I know, she brought her friend, and she was doing the same thing, you know, all that stuff. Anyway, so, yeah, it's like, bitch, you ain't got Google Maps. She stands outside, and she's like, okay, I have it, and then they're like, oh, I'm coming, like, you know, towards, like, an alleyway, and she looks down, like, fucking crime alley. It's like, yeah, that's where Batman's parents died, you know? Also, I love every time, it's New York City. Oh, there's tons of alleys. No, there's not. There's like that one street that's called an alley, but it leads to another street. It's just a skinny ass street. I mean, we got a couple of those in Chinatown, but like, it's we don't got those here, and that's the common misconception about New York. It's like it's just full of alleys and you die in. It's like, nah, man, go to Chicago, go to fucking LA. Like they got that shit. Not here. We can't have that. You know, it's so much crime. Anyway, and then, of course, she's, like, walking more into the alley. Obviously, everyone in the audience is like, bitch, what are you doing? What are you doing? Bitch, you dumb, da-da-da. Of course, Ghostface shows up, you know, kills her. And then Ghostface unmasks himself. And it's the little weasel from fucking the Spider-Man movies who, like, shits on Peter Parker. And I turned to Paul and I said, oh yeah, he needs to die because he hates Spider-Man, you know? Oh, he doesn't hate Spider-Man, he hates Peter Parker. But anyway, so, that dude is like a fan of Ghostface, and him and his roommate are like, about Ghostface and stuff like that, you know? And the dude was like, oh, I had to like go, like, it was like their film professor, and they like had to go kill her because, just cause, like, just, just guy things, you know? Oh, boys being boys. And so then he's on the phone with who he thought was his roommate using the Ghostface voice changer thingy, but it's actual Ghostface. And he finds his roommate, like, butchered up, like, in the fridge, and then he dies. And it's like, oh, good, you know, fuck. One part in the movie, the girl Mindy, you know, the Jamie Kennedy character, well, because that, you know, that was their uncle. I was like, no, not cousin, their uncle. She even said, she's like, oh yeah, that asshole, he was like huge, like, what was it, obsessed with Argento, and I went, oh, of course. And Paul was like, who? And I was like, honey, I'll explain to you when you're older. Film bros, obviously. So yeah, so that starts, and then, you know, you see that, like, you know, Jenna Ortega is, like, at a frat party, and there's this dude who's like, yeah, you know, like, I've got a bottle of Fireball whiskey back up in my room. And Paul and I just went, ew. And she's like, sure, I'll go. And everyone in the audience is like, bitch, no, what are you doing? Hell no. This is one of the best audience experience, like, next to Get Out, you know? I mean, when it's a horror movie and we're all together on this, and it's not one of those where, like, you're trying to watch a horror movie and there's, like, 14-year-olds next to you screaming for no reason, you know? But again, this, like, you had to be an adult to get invited to this, screening. Anyway, anywho, so, what was I saying? Yeah, so, the dude, you know, it's like, ooh, little Rapeyville happening here. Paul was, like, saying that he wasn't used to seeing Jenna Ortega smile because, like, he knows her a little bit more as Wednesday, so I get it. Yeah, so at the party is also are they twins? I'm saying siblings. Well, they are siblings. Are they twins or siblings? Wow, I've had a long week. So yeah, the siblings were also there, and so they're like, hey, you know, bro sibling with the 8-pack that he has going on, could you, you know, get our tiny little Jenna Ortega back, please? And like, the dude was just like, no, she wants to go upstairs, and grabs her really hard, and everyone, like, in the theater was like, no. Paul was like, no! He's just like, objection! That's not how you treat a lady! So, anyway, obviously they got out of there, and fucking the sister shows up, and she tases a dude in the balls, which I love. I love seeing that, you know? They leave the party. Oh, also, like, the bro sibling has a roommate who is like Walmart Evan Peters. I remember just being like, why do I keep thinking this guy's Evan Peters? He's not Evan Peters. I feel like if Evan Peters isn't like such a well-known guy as he is now, that would have been played by Evan Peters. Like, ooh, awkward guy who's like maybe mildly attractive, but like not, like he's not Chris Evans hot because he's not the sibling guy hot because he's hot with an 8-pack, but like he's kind of like dorky cute hot, because we need that. Evan Peters. Yeah, so they're all leaving the party, and then like some bitch threw a drink at the older sister, and it's just like, oh yeah, you're a murderer, I know what you fucking did. Because the whole thing is that they left New York because there's a conspiracy online, which I love that he used Reddit, that the sister like orchestrated it because they know who her dad is, like orchestrated the killing of people so she would look like the victim, blah blah blah. Normal internet, because I'm gonna tie my hair up, normal internet conspiracy shit, like you do, all that stuff. So they're like, all right, we gotta like uproot and go to New York, where there's tons of people with internet access that can know who the fuck we are and give a shit for it. But okay, so the I was supposed to say the teenagers, but the college kids, they're at a school called, was it like Blackmore or Backmore? It's supposed to be Columbia, like from what it looks like. It's supposed to be like Columbia University, but obviously they can't be using that name because there's a death on campus and you don't want to be like, it's like Law and Order always use it, like whenever they have like an art school, it's like Hudson Community College or like some shit. You know what you fucking know. So anyway, yeah, so what was it? Oh, so they also have a roommate. So it's not just it's not just Jenna Ortega's sister, living together. They also have a roommate, which I immediately was like, I don't trust her. Because, like, I was thinking to myself, like, how did they get a roommate? How did they trust someone to be a roommate? And it's like, okay, well, her roommate's dad is a cop, which I was like, oh, I definitely don't trust, because your dad's a cop, you don't trust cops, and also, like, on a personal note, the girl was ginger, and I don't have a good track record with ginger women. They tend to be, like, immensely horrible towards me, so when I saw her, I was like, no. And then when she was, like, when Mindy was doing the whole like, oh, it could be you, Walmart Evan Peters. I really wish she said that. It could be you, Walmart Evan Peters, because you could have fucked with the roommate lotto, da da da. And they're like, there's no way. And I was like, yeah, I'm on her side. It's got to be, Walmart Evan Peters. Then it's like, oh, it's probably the other roommate. They're like, oh, it was anonymous listing, anonymous Craiglisting dealie, and blah blah blah. And plus we vetted her, and her dad's a cop. And it's like, that doesn't mean they're trustworthy. Dad's a cop. Dad's a cop. Just saying. I know a couple people where their parents are like cops and all that, but they're not like this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Anyway, so and the dad is Dermot Mulroney. Yeah, him, Dermot Mulroney, which I was like, I always get him confused with Dylan McDermott because of how the names sound, because and they're just like white dudes who look like that. But all I know him for is like My Best Friend's Wedding. It was funny because like, in the poster, Paul's like, who's that guy who looks like a cop? And it's like, turns out he's a cop. It's like, well, Anyway, so, Ghostface, comes out, he starts killing, shows up. The roommate ends up, like, the roommate dies. Oh, wait, no, the bodega scene happens. You see it in the trailer, and it was kind of scary because it's like, yeah, Ghostface, yeah, it's scary, but you have to be in, like, close proximity to be gotten by him, because he always has a knife. But then, like, he got the bodega guy's, like, shotgun, and that's like, fuck, damn it, And also there's this whole thing where every time Ghostface kills someone, he leaves a mask with, like, DNA to the previous Ghostfaces. So starting from, like, the recent one, which is, what's his name? Randy Quaid's son, him. Like, it goes from that, and then Scream 4, which I just Vaseline over the lens. Scream 4, Killer, and then all the way back kind of stuff. So every time after killing, a Ghostface mask gets left, but it's like, ooh, clues and breadcrumbs and shit like that. So yeah, Ghostface does that. Oh yeah, Ghostface kills the roommate, all that stuff, and then like the love interest for Mindy, and I kept thinking like, why did she die? Like the power of lesbians, because what's her name? Hayden Panettiere, the cheerleader. I love that Paul and I all we just refer to her as cheerleader, because that's what we know her from. Whatchamacallit, the power of lesbians. Anyway, I was like, damn, she died. Damn it. Guess the power of lesbians wasn't very strong with this one. But her death was like, for first of all, like, Ghostface went into her stomach, up, and then, like, twisted. And she was still like, like, not immediate, like, and then dead. Like, she was like, oh, my Temtem. Oh, their neighbor in the building is, like, hot guy. He's the guy that was in, like, he was like the Jim Bro, correctionals officer in Orange is the New Black. He was in the Dolly Parton thing where I made fun of how his face was like 3 different colors, because the makeup people were like, let's make it kind of pinkish and then brown, because they don't understand his ethnicity, even though he's Latino. I mean, he's white passing, so they were just like, what colors do we use on his face? Then he was also in She-Hulk. He was the guy who worked in the office who gave She-Hulk the card that says, like, this is the best bathrooms to poop at, So he's the hot neighbor where everyone kept being like, you should get with him. You guys been making eyes at each other. Well, turns out they have been getting it on. But it's a secret kind of stuff. So whatever. Anyway, he has a ladder in his apartment and just belays, because like they're like the roommate's room and then his room, which he was ironing a t-shirt. Like a regular t-shirt like this. He was ironing it. Sure. I wash mine and I hang it up to dry and then I'll put it on. Anyway, so he has a ladder, one of those that like scrunch up to like this, and he like, when he pulled it out and starts like, extending it to the other side, everyone in the audience was like, what the fuck? Where the fuck did that come from? People behind us is like, what, you don't got a ladder in your apartment? I mean, I get it. You could tell that because the guy is like ironing a t-shirt, he's like prepared, They're about 3 floors up or something, so I get it. Like, he's probably not near a fire escape, so like, again, if you put that out, you can, Anyway, so the love interest lesbian is like trying to crawl across. Everyone got across. She's like, wow, blah, flavin' my bits and pieces. And then Ghostface like, fucking, like countryside China suspension bridge wobble, and then she falls. And you think she's just gonna go splat. No, she goes, hits the dumpster, and then splats. Oh my god. A crazy kill. The kills in this movie is really good. Like, the effects on it, all that stuff. Also, all the stabbings and stuff is really good. Yeah, she died and it was, like, horrible. And then, so the cop dad shows up and he's like, like, my daughter, they messed with my family and he's like, I'm gonna go cop on them, which is like, okay, it's kind of like normal level of cop, but, like, add a little zhuzh to it, Yeah, so the friend dies and then, like, cheerleader is like with them and like, oh wait, no, they go to the police station, they meet cheerleader, and then they come out, Courtney Cox, hello. And I love that when the sister tries to go punch her, she dodges it because, in previous movies, but then Jenna Ortega just like hits her, just, and it was great because her dodge was good. She had that like, like, oh my god, like full Matrix back arch kind of dodge kind of shit, and then Jenna Ortega just slugs her. So Courtney Cox is back, all that stuff. Then what the fuck else happened? I'm tired. The killing stuff. What else? Oh, so the next thing. So then Courtney Cox, because she's involved, she's like, hey, I found that, those boys, the obsessed film guys, or Ghostface, or whomever, have this warehouse. Suddenly I have a key card. They go in, and it's an old abandoned theater, thing. And I was looking at the theater, I'm like, we don't have those anymore in New York. Like, we had those probably in, like, the early, like, that kind of theater, like, in the early 2000s, but they don't, like, that looks like old, like, kind of like LA landmark. This movie was filmed in, like, Quebec. So... Anyway, yeah. So they go into this like old abandoned theater, and you see in the trailer all the different ghost faces, all their robes and all the different like all the fucking crime scene evidence and all that stuff. And they said like, how did they get this evidence? How did they get these items? Aren't the evidence? And then cheerleader is like, hey, not cheerleader. Courtney Cox is like, hey, cops like money and da 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 and all that stuff. And so that part was kind of cool because it was like nostalgia in a weird sense, because you see like freaking Billy Loomis's bloody ass shirt, the TV that kills Stu, Rose McGowan's outfit, the knife that stabbed cheerleader, like oh god, excuse me, like all the shit, like all like all the memorabilia, the evidence. So they find all that stuff, and then they're like, all right, so things and stuff and things. Blah, blah, blah. Then it was like let's try to like bring Ghostface out into the public kind of stuff. The whole, we're at a park and we're surrounded by a lot of people and totally, Dermot Mulroney isn't, obvious cop. Like, I love it. So I have the spirally, squiggly earpiece and with a hat on and shades, looking sus as fuck. Like, I get stopped by NYPD a lot, and I'm just like, bro, like, but they're still obviously gonna stop me because you're one of them. Anyway, so, the Mindy points out, they're like, oh, you're trying to trace the call, it takes 2 minutes in a movie, that shit doesn't work. And then, cheerleader's like, I can trace the call in 15 seconds. And it's like, that's great. They traced the call, and it was coming from, like, the Upper West Side. And they're like, who do we know that's there? And I'm thinking, like, huh? Like, initially I thought, are they gonna introduce, like, another cameo, like a surprise cameo, or whatever? Like, oh, Nev Campbell actually has a place in New York. Yeah, Nev Campbell obviously wasn't in this movie, which I understand. They probably, like, didn't, like, not, either couldn't afford her, or, like, in all honesty, I couldn't see her in this one because, one, it's really focused on the sisters more, and also, like, in a, the Star Wars thing, like, she would have died. You know what I mean? Like, the rules of the sequel thing is that she is, like, the legacy character, she would have been the Han Solo death kind of thing. She would have been, the fucking, Luke, like, she would have been the death, and that would have pissed off a lot of people, and it was good to, like, not have her there and have her just be kind of like an exposition of, like, she's in hiding and being away, and, they're like, let her have her win, which is good, like, girl, dude, Anyway, they show Courtney Cox's apartment, which one of my colleagues was saying that he saw, like, a bunch of different people posting, like, how could, Courtney Cox's character, who's just a journalist, afford, like, a place in the Upper West Side? And I'm like, and I just kept saying, I was like, this is the 6th installment in the movie. She's known to write books about every time the Ghostface thing happens. So there's 5 books out already. People love shit. Like, she even says that in the movie, that, like, people love true crime and all this shit. Especially, like, when she is, like, a person involved in it, in a sense, involved in it, and, like, first-hand eyewitness shit going on, you know what I mean? And she's still doing her job. She's a lady. You know what I mean? Like, she's gonna keep milking it, like, and then, like, she actually is, like, a pretty decent, investigative journalist, because she found that fucking lair, and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah, so, and also, like, who cares? It's, like, it's also, like, you're watching a horror movie, and you're like, well, that's not how that works, like, I just, like, a suspension of disbelief, excuse me, it's like, yeah, I joke about that, where I was like, yeah, I can't really believe that, but, like, I say about that a lot of times with certain movies where, like, there's ones where I'm like, alright, I'll let that slide, other ones where it's just like, no, but, like, it's a horror movie, this is the 6th installment of this fucking thing, you know what I'm saying, like, let it go that she has this amazing apartment where she keeps shoes on in her apartment, but within good reason. And she had, like, the sneakers on, she was ready to go, within good reason, because, freaking Ghostface was there. But then also, I love how, like, she has her, like, new boo, and I was, like, like, her new boo was like this built black dude, and I just turned to Paul and I said, you know he's gonna die, because horror movie logic is that if you're a person of color, especially if you're black, you're gonna die. The siblings are alive because they're mixed race. And, you know, also the plot says so. And the power of lesbians with Mindy. But anyway, we're gonna get that in a second. So, you know, there's like that fight in the apartment, and in the apartment, whoever the stunt person is for that specific, or the whole, whichever Ghostface it was, that motherfucker was fast. It was like, you know, all that shit. Oh my god. You know, like, she gets stabbed, and you're thinking, like, the legacy character dying, you know, because they killed friggin' David Arquette in the last movie, which I knew that was gonna happen. So, yeah, like, but she's fine, she's recovering, she's alive. Then they're like, okay, so then Cheerleader was like, okay, we'll just, like, draw him out, bring him into the freaking theater, and, you know, and then that'll be a place, you know, not that many exits, like, you know, this is the only entrance, all that stuff. And they're like, let's do this. So, they get to the theater, all that stuff, and then, you know, like, the camera shows Cheerleader make, like, kind of face, and then everyone in the audience kept being like, it's Kirby, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm sitting there like, no, y'all stupid, it's not her, you know? Like, Paul and I were talking about this, like, what benefits would she have? And she's like, okay, I was stabbed by Ghostface, now I am the Ghostface. For the reasons of what? You know, like, you go all the way to the FBI to be, well, never mind, I'm not gonna go into that. Anyway, so, I'm like, nah. So, freaking, you know, whatchamacallit, so Jenna Ortega and 8-Pack guy, you know, they kiss, and then freaking Ghostface shows up, and, like, that's when you learn there's two ghosts. Oh my god, someone behind me, not the people that I was enjoying their dumb comments, but someone else was like, there's two? And then the people that I was enjoying their commentary, they straight up said, yeah! Like, they even showed that in the fucking, at one point in the movie, they gave you a TLDR. They showed you the chart of all the different ghost faces from just how, you know, when they were leaving the mask, like, from the last movie, you know, to, you know, and they said, each time, there was always two ghost faces, except for in the third movie, where it was what's-his-name, and he was the only, you know, one singular ghost with us. I don't know why anyway, you know, and it's like, yeah, of course there's gonna be two. And then I love, like, oh my god, they double teamed him. You heard me. I'm doing this gesture. Yeah, I haven't done that in a while. Fucking Mr. Abs of Steel. And it's like, okay, he's done for. And then also, like, people in the theater were like, they're like, you're just gonna stand there and watch him die? Fucking run! You know? Like, the only reason why they keep stabbing him is, like, you know? So, you know, the sisters, they run away, you know, all that stuff. Kirby is missing, so again, it's the I don't know if you really call it a red herring, but it's the, oh, we're gonna make you think it's her. It's not her. I knew it wasn't her. And, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Oh, when the Ghostface does this thing, like, so, obviously, in the first movie, it was very well known when Ghostface, like, kills and then they, you know, wipe the blade. Even the sister did that, like, killing what's-his-name from The Boys, you know. She even did the thing, because that's, like, the Billy thing. But then this one, like, the two of them did that, and they both, like, went, phew. Like, this time Ghostface is, like, so slick, you know? He's, like, extra fast. He's not as stumbly as, you know, oh my god, Scream 2, that Ghostface, like, fucking ate shit so hard in Sydney's apartment. Anyway, but kudos to the stunt person. Anyway, so yeah, they killed it, they wiped really quick, and when they did that, and then there was a sound of it. I don't know. Wiping quick sound. That sounds weird. I'm just gonna wipe real quick. So, and then when they did that, because it was so slick, everyone in the audience was like, yo, what the fuck? Fuck these guys, you know? And then, oh yeah, before that, like, before, you know, they, whatchamacallit, was like, oh no, it could be Kirby, da-da-da. Sam, the sister, gets a call from, you know, cop. And is like, I called the FBI, and, you know, she hasn't been on the force for 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. And again, trying to, like, hone it in. I'm still like, nope, I don't believe it. Like, I don't believe it. Ever since the movie Devil, the Shyamalan movie, I'm like, nope. I don't care if someone has already died or perceived as died or whatever. I'm gonna stick to my guns, who I think is the bad person or the good person, until the movie is officially 100% over. Credits are rolling. Nope. I'm not switching my answer. Nope. Because I know my answers. Anyway, so the dad's like, oh my god, anyway. So, yeah, so at one point you finally see Kirby, and she's kind of bloody, kind of like disoriented. She's like, oh, she's like, I got knocked out, da da da. And then they're kind of weird, like maybe it is her, but they're not sure, da da da, and all that stuff. Cop dad shows up, and then it's like, and then they're like, oh my god, Ghostface is behind you, and then Ghostface just like stand next to the cop, and the audience is like, oh, and I'm there like, yeah, you didn't think a cop, especially NYPD, would be evil, would be the bad guy? Yeah! Like, come on, man. Like, I knew already. I was like, I don't trust him. You're a cop. Oh, that, all that stuff. And then, they're like, oh, who's this Ghostface's Ace? The first Ghostface's Ace is, no surprise, Walmart Evan Peters. And they were like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're right. I did, fuss with the, the roommate lotto thing. And he's like, no, that kind of stuff. And it's like, all right, dude, like, he's like, oh, you think my last name is this? It's actually, and then, Jenna Ortega's character had to, like, spell out. She's like, your dad? And it's like, and then they're like, well, who's this other Ghostface? And then, like, unmasked, and it's the daughter. And then idiots in the audience were like, what? But she's dead. And it's like, but you saw her get tossed about. You didn't see the you didn't, you know what I mean? Like, you saw the idea of her dying. You didn't see her being mangled like all those other people. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, dial it back. Sorry, I forgot. My bad. We're dialing back. So they were on, this is the part in the trailer. They were on their way to the theater. I love how I'm, like, revealing it, and then I have to go back. And so you see how, like, they're all on the subway. So, it was the sisters, 8-pack guy, and then love interest apartment dude, all in one train car. Well, they actually were on the one train. And it's Halloween. This whole movie takes place around, like, Halloween weekend. Because at one point, someone's like, how long is Halloween? Because it's been several days. But, like, y'all forget that, like, in New York, we celebrate Halloween, like, starting from, like, the 29th. You know what I mean? Anyway, so, especially if it's on the weekend. And so, it's crowded, and, like, they couldn't get on the train, So then Mindy and Walmart Evan Peters are waiting for the next train. And I turned to Paul, and I was like, okay, we've been on some crowded-ass trains, but it's never been where, like, you couldn't get on the train. Because, we would just be like, yo, get the fuck out, I gotta get home, I get to work, that kind of stuff. Also, it's not like Japan, like when we were in Tokyo, when it was, like, rush hour, and then someone just, like, gently pushed Paul, but they did push him, and he moved, like that, like, he was, like, dude was about, like, good 3 feet in front of me, and then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, bro. He was like, what? Just kind of mumbling the N-word, and I'm like, hey, well, we try to avoid rush hour in Tokyo, and we hit it at least once. But anyway, so, so yeah, they're taking the one train from, like, 96th Street down to, I forgot, they said that they had 10 stops, but there was also, the stops were wrong, because we're gonna be those people. I mean, they weren't wrong. The numbers weren't wrong, but the stations were, again, this movie, like, was shot in Quebec, and at one point when they said 66th Street, the person next to me was like, that's where we are! It's like, yeah, it is. It is where we are. It's great that you know where we are, honey. Anyway, so, because of that, so then Mindy and Walmart Evan Peters are on the train, and Mindy's against, I was like, I think it's the back of the train, because then you start seeing, like, because everyone's in Halloween stuff, and they're all in Ghostface's mask, and then you like Ghostface starts getting, like, it does the thing that the New York subway does, is that sometimes the lights go off, and then it comes back on, so they use that as an effect where Ghostface gets closer and closer to her, and then she gets, and you're like, no! And I was, like, getting mad, because I was like, the power of lesbians, come on! She's like, blah! And the Walmart Evan Peters like, oh no! And all all that. Anyway, obviously it's revealed that so Mindy is in the hospital, all that stuff. Walmart Evan Peters is one of the Ghostface. This, the sister is also a ghost. It's a ghost family thing, all that stuff. I also, of course, the convenience, talking about, like, logic and nitpicking. I also love the convenience that the siblings don't look anything alike, Like, that wouldn't happen with, like, my sister and I, because, like, some people have even asked us if we were twins, and it's not possible with how many years apart we are. I mean, I was inside my mommy's tummy just to be just ripe, Anyway, so... yeah, so when it was, like, revealed it was Walmart Evan Peters, it was just like, oh, good, I knew it. So, of course, like, the dad is like, blah, 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 meh. He tries to, like, so you think he shoots Kirby, because, he's like, bah, bah, and it's like, you see her, like, fall back, then it's the ghost faces against the daughter, the sisters, the daughters, well, they are, them. And then, so there was a line said earlier in the movie when when Sam, like, kind of crashes the frat party to kind of, like, save her sister from the rapist. And, Jenna Ortega is like, you've got to let me go someday. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, that's gonna come back at the end of the movie. I know what storytelling is, Anyway, so they go up in the rafters to, like, the balcony, not the rafters, they go up a ladder, and then they're in, like, the balcony and all that stuff, and Jenna Ortega's, like, hanging there, and then she does, where, like, Walmart Evan Peters is down on the ground, and Ginger's sister is up, like, getting in the balcony, and of course she's like, you gotta let me go, because there's a gun. Oh yeah, like, the dad's gun is there, and she's got Billy's knife in her, like, waist thing. She hands her thing. Jenna Ortega goes down and just, like, stabs him, and all of us were like, yeah, like, ah, and then all of a sudden, like, like, you're gonna die a virgin, blah, 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 and then stabs him again. We're like, yeah! And then, like, you see her, like, stab, right? And then it shows the reverse shot of him. She stabs him in the mouth. Like, deep throat, there's the dagger in your mouth, you whore, That was great. I was like, oh my god, I would love to recreate that effect. I just need to figure out how to do that. But, yes. Anyway, yeah, like... they kill the ghost faces, like, even, like, the dad and all that stuff, because, fuck the NYPD. And so, awesomeness. And then, love interest boyfriend, comes through with the cops, I guess the other cops, the good ones, to save the day and all that stuff. And then you find out that, obviously, we knew, Kirby wasn't dead, there was, like, this little thing of, like, is it her? Like, which was the evil twin? The one with the mustache. Like, that kind of thing. And then, they're all, like, in the ambulance, like, they're getting all patched up, and da-da-da. And then, Mindy, like, shows up, and I love how she, like, is running. And I get it, it's adrenaline, da-da-da, but girl, you got, like, cut up. You know what I mean? You are probably on, like, morphine right now, stitched up, you're, like, running. I gotta see my friend. And she's like, I figured out how it goes. Is it that? I mean, again, Power of Lesbians, she's alive. Power of Lesbians, Kirby is alive. And then at one point they said, we got another one. It was like, what? And then freaking 8-pack is being wheeled down. He's, like, got, like, the oxygen on. And I was like, oh, shit. I think I turned to Paul and I said something about light skin advantage or something. I don't know. I said something. And he's just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Anyway, so it's like, oh, they said core 4. Like, that was their, I don't know why I pulled up 3 fingers. I have a math award. Anyway, they were like, core 4. That was, like, their thing, gang signs and stuff, So, yeah, like, the movie ends, and it's one of those, the bad is gone, like, obviously the sister is still kind of like, maybe, oh yeah, she was still seeing, like, Billy here and there. At least this time it was, like, in a reflection and kind of blurry, not like last time where, like, he was there and they had to, like, CGI, like, freaking, Skeet Ulrich to look like, young, because, he was a 35-year-old high schooler in the first movie, and now he's a like, what? Like, Matthew Lillard is all, like, white-haired and shit now, you know what I mean? They grown, they old, Like, anyway, movie ends and it's all good. And then people start leaving the theater, but the lights don't go on. So Paul and I were like, well, we're not gonna get up. Like initially, it's like, okay, you're watching like the credits and it's good. Then it's like the regular like scrolling, black credits and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I was like, do you think there's something? I'm like, it'd be dumb if there was something afterwards, I'm like, horror films don't usually do that. I'm like, but the lights haven't gone on, so I'm gonna sit here. So a bunch of us around, we're kind of chilling, da da da. After credit sequence happens, it's Mindy being like, there doesn't need to be an after credit sequence after every movie, da da da. And I was like, all right, girl, cool, power of lesbians. But yeah, like I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. The kills were like insane and like goddamn like gruesome. Jesus Christ. Yeah, of course there was like the horror tropes of like the dumb people. Like, oh god, like when the love interest lesbian was trying to like crawl over the ladder, and obviously I get it, you're bleeding, you're freaking out, you're scared. But at one point when like you look across and everyone is like, that would have given me the cue to be like, okay, let me try to move faster. She straight up said, what? Bitch, what do you mean what? Like the whole point of us going over this ladder is that and all of a sudden you're like, what? I don't know, Santa arrived. I don't know. Like, your mom's here to comfort you. Like, what do you mean, what? That's when we thought, okay, you deserve to die, like, and she was dying anyway, because she was, all that stuff. It kind of sucks you didn't really see the Gale Weathers boyfriend's death as well. Like, you saw him in the background real quick, kind of like that, and then they threw his big ass. But anyway, but whatchamacallit, yeah, like, this is probably one of my favorite ones, of the series, just because it's like again, because Scream itself is a very self-aware horror movie, but it didn't do like the fourth one, where it felt like it was written by like a film bro. It was like, actually, and then the Vaseline over the lens thing, anyway. But anywho, yes, so I really like this one. Also, like, the audience made it like a lot more words and phrases a lot more like exciting, interesting to watch, because last time I watched it at home, so yeah. Oh god, burping. Yes. No, well, it kind of, no, anyway, I don't know what else to say, because it was a screening, so there wasn't like trailers or anything. That was kind of like, because it was a special screening, and it was like free, you gotta have your name on the list kind of stuff. So there was like a bunch of checkpoints you had to go through, where it's like, you gotta, sign in at the table, and then you go up and you gotta show your special ticket. Then you get to the theater. There's like a tall ass dude in Doc Martens standing there. And I'm just like, my ticket with my bestie. Even though, yes, that guy was taller than the both of us, but, like, we're both fat people. Like, anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about fighting the security guard at, like, a movie theater, anyway. But yeah, we got our seats. We were actually, like, third row from the front, so we were kind of watching it, like, kind of like this, I was worried we had to be all the way in the front, because we got there just, not late, but, like, later than I wanted to, but it's fine. We got to see it. It was cool. Got to see one of my other buddies, which was also cool, It was funny, because, like, when we met outside of the theater, the first thing out of her mouth was like, Jill, what inspiration you got from this movie? And I'm like, bitch, the fucking dagger in the mouth thing. But anyway, I'm just keep this is a long review, and it's not something I hate. All right, I'm gonna stop talking because I'm out of breath and I'm tired. Oh god, boy.